In this video, we'll encounter the last of the antimetabolite anti-cancer therapies. At the Sushi Phase restaurant, we encounter drugs that inhibit the enzymes involved in folate recycling and thymidine synthesis. While at the Pure Notre Dame Cathedral, I introduced you to a few agents that inhibit the enzymes involved in purine synthesis. Well, instead of blocking the intermediate steps of DNA synthesis, these last few purine and pyrimidine analogs are going to block that last enzymatic step, DNA polymerase. I know, virtual reality is all the rage now, but you know what we had back in the day, kids? That's right, dioramas. If it wasn't made out of wax figures and covered in cobwebs, it just wasn't immersive enough, you know what I mean? Subtly creepy, but yes, oh, so lifelike. Let's head over to the Natural History Museum where these last anti-cancer drugs will be recreated with the ultra-realistic environments of the Neanderthal exhibit. Take a look at this first specimen, a Neanderthal dressed in his warm, early human garb. He's clad in bearskins, to remind you of the name cladribine, a cytotoxic purine analog. See the shape of his Stone Age hammer? That hexagon attached to a pentagon kind of looks like a purine, right? It's our little extra reminder that cladribine is a purine analog specifically. Cladribine is resistant to adenosine deaminase, the enzyme in the purine disposal pathway that normally degrades purine analogs and adenosine. Therefore, cladribine can reach very high intracellular levels. After being phosphorylated to a triphosphate form, it becomes incorporated into DNA, causing breaks, or it can inhibit DNA synthesis and repair by inhibiting DNA polymerase alpha and beta. Hey, get down from there! No touching the Neanderthal! We're here to learn, people. Control that attention deficit for just 1 second and take a look at this instructional panel below. See this arrow on the diagram here, depicting the gene flow of early humans out of Africa? It's forked at the end to remind you of a DNA replication fork. Also, let the cracked glass over this sign represent not only the obsolete nature of museums as a learning tool, but also cladribine's ability to inhibit DNA polymerase. And since we're inhibiting DNA synthesis, this means we're arresting cells in the S phase specifically, as represented by this descriptor here, the stone phase. You know, that prehistoric period that lasted like 3.4 million years up until the arrival of the iron phase around 6000 BC. Cladribine is cytotoxic and the drug of choice for treating hairy cell leukemia. Hairy cell, hairy bearskin-clad caveman. Need I say more? Cladribine can cause complete remission in these patients. This agent can also be used for the treatment of other leukemias and lymphomas, including CLL and non-Hodgkin lymphoma. The main toxicity of cladribine therapy is myelosuppression, as represented here on the forest floor by a large bone broken open with marrow spilling forth. Cladribine can cause a prolonged decrease in T lymphocyte levels and therefore increased risk of infection. These immunosuppressive effects are represented here by our recurring sketchy symbol, that old immunosuppressed cane, this time held by the Neanderthal mother-in-law. Alright, the next specimen in the diorama is located at the mouth of the Neanderthal's cave. It's the terrifying saber-toothed cytarabine. Cytarabine is an anti-metabolite agent that functions as a pyrimidine analog. So, we've incorporated a few pyrimidines represented by that lone hexagonal shape, remember, into the pattern of the saber-toothed tiger's fur. Unlike the other pyrimidine analog antimetabolite we encountered at the Sushi Phase restaurant, 5FU, cytarabine does not affect the folate cycle. Instead, it's converted into a triphosphate metabolite that competitively inhibits DNA polymerase alpha and beta, thus preventing DNA synthesis and repair. So remember that cracked replication fork in the panel below. We're still in S phase. Cytarabine is only active against hematologic malignancies including AML and non-Hodgkin lymphoma. So behind our unwelcome visitor, we've included some crab fossils embedded in the wall of the Neanderthal's cave. They've been scratched out along with some kind of prehistoric cave art depicting ancient caveman warriors. Let these white figures wielding T-shaped swords and antibody arrows specifically represent those B and T cell malignancies that can be treated with cytarabine. Like cladribine, the main adverse effect of cytarabine is myelosuppression, so don't forget about that spilled marrow this saber-toothed cat has left on the forest floor. And the last antimetabolite I want to show you in the exhibit is gemcitabine, represented by the beautiful geodes stockpiled by that Neanderthal. See that one that's broken open in the back there? There are gems in it. Gemcitabine. Hey, I'm just pointing out what we're all thinking, okay? Gemcitabine is also a pyrimidine analog, which is why we've sketched it next to that saber-toothed tiger decorated with those pyrimidine-shaped spots. After being converted to a triphosphate form, gemcitabine inhibits DNA polymerase alpha and beta, blocking DNA synthesis and repair. So, stone phase, S phase. The metabolites of cytarabine can also cause chain termination and even inhibit ribonucleotide reductase. Unlike cytarabine, gemcitabine is active against both hematologic malignancies and solid tumors. So notice the crab fossils are embedded with these big, solid, tumorous geodes as well. Like all the drugs discussed here, gemcitabine causes myelosuppression, which is why we've placed the geodes with gems inside next to that spilled marrow. Okay, sorry, I know I'm repeating myself. Look, I just thought you guys wanted to actually learn something today. You know, museums used to be the only place you could go to see stuff like this. Practical effects, it's a dying art. Tell you what, you go back to your Oculus Rift or whatever you have, and I'll be at home rewatching John Carpenter's The Thing for like the 50th time. Rob Bottin, now there's a guy who knew how to recreate some bone marrow spillage.